Welcome to Triple H, Hamilton Happy Hour, where we talk about pianos, talk about music, and everything else in between. Hey everybody, welcome back to Hamilton Happy Hour. We are here again with Mike and Mike.
Hey everybody.
What's up, y'all?
And we have our guest, Joshua.
Hello.
From Palm Beach State. He runs the Duncan Theatre over there. And we have known each other now, man.
I just finished my 25th season, and I met you probably 18 months before that at the Crest.
Okay.
Old School Square.
Man, it's been a long time. It's funny. My uncle used to tune at Palm Beach State, Danny, before I did, and he passed away, and then I took over from there. And then Norm was there before. Norm was a super great guy working there. And, it's funny because we were talking yesterday about what you guys do is what the people don't get to see is the behind the curtain scenes. You've got in front of the curtain and behind the curtain. And I don't know if people realize just how important what happens behind the curtain makes what happens in front of the curtain happen.
They have no clue.
No idea.
And when, they have an opportunity to actually be backstage with us and see actually how we work, one afterwards, they're usually like, wow, that's freaking crazy. Mm-hmm. And wow, that's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is they don't understand how much goes into it and the time to give them that 45 minutes to an hour and a half block of entertainment. We might have 6 hours. We might have 2 days, to set up for it. Mm-hmm. Some of the dance shows, it takes me 2-3 days just to set up the lighting.
Oh, wow.
Before they even load in, before I put the dance floor down. So we had some of our donors recently because come by and we gave them a backstage look of how we operate. Partially because we want to say, hey, we got some things that need to be replaced. And if you like what you see here at the Duncan, then we sometimes need a little bit of assistance. And by actually giving them a backstage kind of look, they were completely amazed. And it actually did help us get a couple donations last year, which we got the profit from this year. We got to buy some new equipment. And
that's cool.
It's
Did
pretty
you set
cool.
some props, like some broken ladders and stuff like that? That started like, woe is me.
I almost fell off this thing.
Yeah, unfortunately, the problem is I'm really OCD, and my place is really relatively clean as far as backstages go. And it's like I don't have broken stuff out where people can see, and that would be much better for the cause. I think.
Yeah,
maybe next time. Actually, that's a great idea.
You know how to make props, right?
I do.
The ladder doesn't even really have to be broken. You can just make it look broken.
What you could do is draw a chalk outline of someone that fell off the ladder on the floor.
You see what happened last night?
Yeah. Some broken drills laying around.
But yeah, it is so important what you guys do because without you, the show does not go on.
No.
And it is it's like the pit crew that no one really pays attention to. They pay attention to the driver and the race. It's these parts of the things that I think are so important in the industry because, like you said, from the load in to the load out, and then you have rehearsal. And then you have all these other moving parts that have to happen in conjunction with each other, sometimes simultaneously, sometimes not. But it has to work in such a flow for it the show must go on. So there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to what you guys do.
Yeah. And it's synchronized.
Yeah, it is. It is.
And unbelievably synchronized.
And when you have an orchestra coming in, like the Symphonic Band of the Palm Beaches, when they come in, that's not the 30, 40, 50 people, right? 60 sometimes, I think. 65. So you've got them coming in, and now you've got all those people on the stage. Then you got all their instruments. Then you got to mic everything. There's so many moving parts that I think it's very important that people should know about. And the next time you go to a concert, think about that. Really think about what happened behind that curtain to make this show happen and what's actually happening during the show. You guys probably have a lot going on, not just with lights, but you're probably with the engineering of the recording or the sound, in the middle, I'm assuming, right?
Sometimes. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a lot going on before, during, and after.
You know, it would be
the
cool.
show.
That just gave me an idea. It would be cool because I would watch it if I went to a show. If in the auditorium there was playing before the show, like a time lapse video on a loop, just like a 5-minute video that you could just play on a loop for half an hour prior to the show of you guys doing stuff backstage. You'd probably have a crowd gathered around.
You know, it's kind of interesting because a bunch of years ago, before Norm retired, we did a time lapse of us doing a changeover for a dance company, from setting up the lighting booms on the side of the stages to the actual dance floor, and then, of course, we sped it up. And the reason behind it was he kind of had a hard time trying to explain what we do to our HR department. Because although we're a professional theater, we are on a college campus. We get our funding from the state and the college. So, yes, we are a college, but we're there not for academia purposes. We're there to support, but that's not our primary function. We're there to present shows to the community and make money for the college. Norm thought it would be a good idea to do this in a time lapse to kind of show our HR department some of what we do. Because when we try to describe what we do, because they don't understand the hours, I mean, you know, they say to us, oh, well, you know, for your overhire, you're only allowed 27 and a half hours per week. I put in 27 and a half hours in 2.5 days when I'm loading in a dance show.
Yeah.
And then I still have 3 more days of a show run of 12-hour days. Yeah. The math, you know, it adds up way beyond 27 and a half hours. So they didn't understand, you know, how we work. We actually had somebody come to the theater and they followed us around for an afternoon and they were like, we don't get it. So then Norm came up with the idea. It's like, well, let's just set up a camera. So Mike Williams, our sound guy at the time, he set up a small camera and, you know, one of the GoPros when they first came out. And it was kind of cool because GoPros were like really new at that time. And then he sped it up after it was all recorded. And it was probably over the course of 12 hours. It was like a Friday morning to, you know, from load in to basically curtain, and then he picked it up after curtain, and then sped it up, and it was probably about 2 minutes for, you know, a 12-hour day. We brought it to the HR people, and he kind of put on a PowerPoint presentation just to kind of show it to them. And they looked at it, and they watched it, and they literally were like,
It only took 2 minutes.
Yeah.
"You guys are really efficient." No, they looked at it, and they were just like, "We don't get it."
Yeah.
It's like, how do you? It's like they
Took 2 minutes.
Even when
It
they
should only take
watch
you
it, and you
4
see us
hours.
just scurrying like you know, like ants, you know, and it's like it still doesn't comprehend in their minds that this amount of work has to go into an hour-and-a-half show.
Mm-hmm.
We spend tens of thousands of dollars in a week's period for an hour-and-a-half show. But what's on the flip side of it is it's not about the money. It's about what you're providing the community in terms of cultural arts. We're lucky enough to where we have not just dance, but we have music, tribute bands, orchestras. We do so many different things. So every day is different. And the process between each type of group that comes in is different. We don't deal with concerts the same way we do with dance shows. The symphonies, when they come in, or Symphonic Band of the Palm Beaches, groups like that, compared to, let's say, a tribute band, completely different. A symphony, I can load in everything and have them set up in less than 45 minutes, including chairs and music stands.
Oh, wow.
I have a tribute band there. I mean, we're there from, 1 PM, starting to set up lines, and, by 5 o'clock, we're hoping to get through a sound check. And then we take maybe 30 minutes to take a break if sound check goes okay. And then we have show by 8. And we're done by 9:30, and then we have to break down, and then we're out of there by midnight. And then sometimes you have back-to-back shows, and you're doing it over and over again. And then again, back to the HR people, it's like, wow, we can't believe how much work you guys do. And you continuously come back. And I'm like, not everybody does come back.
Right.
There's some of us who have been doing this for a long time that are just, we just put our head down and plow through, because that's the nature of what it takes to put on a show, and it's fun. It's hard work, but it's fun. There are those of us who have been doing it for decades, and it's like, if it's not fun, you wouldn't be doing it for decades.
Yeah, for sure.
So, yeah, there's a lot of work behind it.
I'm sure you got some stories to tell.
I got a couple.
Anything that...
So did HR, hold on, did HR just finally just threw their hands in the air and like, okay, yeah, it's okay. You do what you got to do?
Different people have come in and out of the department, and every time somebody new comes in, we have to try and explain it
Gotta do it
again. And I get into trouble usually at some point mid-season because I'm going over hours or this or that. And we actually had a situation this season where one of my stagehands was not just working basically 35 to 38 hours a week at the Duncan, but he was also working another 20 hours up at EC Campus Theater in Palm Beach Gardens. So, and I didn't know it. And he was going into major overtime, and as a part-time person, not really allowed to do that. Don't have the budget for it. But unfortunately, post-COVID, we don't have enough technicians. COVID took a lot of people out. They just don't want to work anymore. And if they do, they're looking for a different type of pay rather than an hourly wage. They're looking for a day rate. So the mentality of the industry has changed as far as stagehands. Even when you go to, trying to have a union crew, you're getting box pushers. You're not getting people who are skilled any longer. And that's where it's getting a little difficult. It's been getting harder to do what we do backstage. But, at the end of the day, you look at the audience. Did they have a good time? Hopefully. Most of them. Do we have people walk out occasionally? Yeah. It happens.
Show must go on.
Can't please everybody.
And hope.
But it's fun. It's hard. But it's worth it.
And well, you guys have great shows too. The Michael Bublé tribute band, I heard that was really good.
Feeling Good, the Michael Bublé Experience. Yeah, that was a great show. And that was a good one because he was supposed to do one set, 90 minutes flat, straight up. He played for almost 2 hours, 15 minutes, I think.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he just kept going and going and going because the audience was just eating it up.
Oh, wow.
And it was a really great way to kind of end the season. And it was a hard season because it's funny, a lot of people were complaining this season about sound, about it's too loud. It's a live concert. It's going to be loud. Go to a concert at the fairgrounds, it's loud. And everybody has the smartwatches now. So as soon as it peaks at like 93 or 95 decibels, they get a thing on their watch that says, hey. And then they go to the house manager and they're like, look, my decibel meter on my phone just, it says 94 decibels, and that's bad. And they want us to turn it down.
First HR, now this.
Yeah. So what we've actually come to notice because I've been at the Duncan for so long, and we have so many different programs, but we have had such a great repeat of patrons over the years as subscribers. The demographic has gotten older. As they have gotten older, their hearing is getting a little more questionable, just as mine is. I mean, I'm 51 now, and my hearing isn't what it was a few years ago, but
because it was too loud in the theater.
But it was interesting because I went to a concert down at the Parker Playhouse a couple weeks ago, Queensryche. Well, it was actually Jeff Tate, the original lead singer to Queensryche. And when I was in high school, Queensryche, I went and saw them down in Miami. It was awesome. It was loud. And I'm sitting with my wife who works at the Broward Center, and she's sitting next to me, and I'm standing, and there's a whole bunch of people in the audience, and they're standing, and she's like, this is so freaking loud. How can you even like this? This is horrible. The band's loud. I can't understand the guy's vocals. And as she's telling me this, which I could barely hear, I'm having kind of a reaction. I'm having a moment. I'm like, damn, is this what my patrons are complaining and bitching about? Like, and I'm like, again, I'm only 51. My hearing's not that bad. And, knowing the sound engineer over there, afterwards, he was like, look, man, it's all about the mix. When the company comes in and their engineer wants it like this, because that's how the band likes it, your audience has to take it.
Yep.
We had walkouts? Sure. We had a couple walkouts. We had a Pink Floyd tribute band where that happened. It was a great band called The Machine. It wasn't a loud show, relatively speaking, compared to some of our other shows. It was within the same decibel level, but the people just didn't like it. It was like, how do you go to a concert or have a subscription that says the music of Pink Floyd, but don't know what you're listening to? And the people who are the patrons are the same age as David Gilmour and Roger Waters. It's it's not like they don't know who it is.
Yeah.
One person came out. I was in the lobby with the director of the theater, and he says, "How dare you?" He actually said, "How dare you put something on that stage that's so loud and so terrible?"
Oh my God!
No, you can't please everybody. But you have one person, or we'll say a group of 6 people, one party, walk out. But you still have 690 something people in there that are still digging it, loving it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Best night of their lives.
Yeah, and those who were there were totally eating it up. And I'm a Pink Floyd fan, so I was eating it up. Did I think it was loud? No. Did my boss think it was loud? At parts, but that's not her kind of music. But you can't please everybody.
Queensryche loud and Pink Floyd loud are completely different louds too.
True. And actually, it was one of those things where it's like the mix of the band was awesome. If they could just take it down 6 decibels and bring his vocals up 3 decibels, that would have been the perfect mix for that room. And that's the other thing is like people don't understand the room changes from the point in which you're doing a sound check when there's nobody in the room, and then when you add 800 people into a small room, it changes the dynamics of the sound. So, it progressively, concerts from the beginning of the concert to the end of the concert progressively do get louder because the first couple of songs, the engineer is finally getting it all worked out with the actual room with people in it. So, during sound check, we get the mix set and we try and get a good level of the house. And then when the people are there, we have to kind of inch it up a little bit. And that's kind of also kind of fun because you're part of the magic happening. If the sound sounds like crap, then you're not doing your job well. Do we have people walk out occasionally? But when you look at the, again, 690 people stay and 6 or 8 people leave.
Not going to please everybody.
No.
It's impossible.
We'll take those numbers.
And then at the end of the season, we had a big powwow with the boss and hey, how did the season go? And we were reading the comments from some of our patrons. And one of them said specifically, that Machine Pink Floyd show was the best freaking show I've ever seen. And they had it all in big letters, and my boss turned it to show us all, and it's like, yeah, that's gratification.
And that's the person you're trying to please.
Yes.
I mean, out of all the 690 some odd people, there's only one person you're trying to please. It's just like if I have to work for a country club or as a concert or whatever, you're my boss there. So if you're happy, I'm happy. But also the pianist has to be happy. So it's kind of like, 99.9% of the time, the pianists are all happy with the Steinway D. But there's once in a blue moon, there's things that have come up. And so I've come back and tweaked or whatever. And that's what we do. I mean, that's our job. But you cannot please everybody.
Michael Cavanaugh, I think it was 2 seasons ago. Mm-hmm. He was in the Billy Joel Broadway show, handpicked by Billy Joel. And when he came in,
that one concert,
he didn't.
No, that was David Rosenthal, I think. Okay. That was, but that's also Billy Joel's keyboardist.
Yes. Right. Sorry for interrupting.
Oh, no worries. Are you talking about Mike DeGuise?
No, I thought wasn't it David Rosenthal? I think or something like that.
Yeah. He tours with Billy.
He tours with Bill.
Keyboardist, apparently.
Yeah.
There's a guy named, I think it's Mike DeGuise. He's also in Billy Joel's band. He does the sound checks for Billy Joel.
There. He was there that night.
Okay.
Mike was.
I did a show with him up at the Sunrise Theater with Holland last season, I think, and he was absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. You close your eyes, you would swear it was Billy Joel.
Yeah.
And what was interesting is he auditioned for that same Billy Joel show, Moving Out, that Michael Cavanaugh, who was at the theater. And it was interesting because when Michael Cavanaugh came into the theater, I know I'm jumping around, there was something with the middle C. I forgot.
Yeah, repeating fast enough.
Yeah, and there was just something not clicking with him. And then he was like, just so you know, I'm certified in blah, 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 piano tech, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, can I? I'm like, I don't want you to touch my piano. I'll call Toby. So Toby comes by, and long short of it, we ended up swapping out to our smaller piano, which was a 7-foot Kwai, which is a lot brighter. And when he got the middle C, he was happy with that. I'm like, okay, whatever, sure. What makes you happy makes us happy, like you were saying earlier. Yeah. And you got to make the artist happy.
And it's nice being able to have a second piano too, if that is the case that you need it, because the artist may not like that piano at all. I had an artist one time, I think I mentioned on the podcast, and won't get into specifics, but he said he didn't like the piano at all. And I'm like, well, this is the only piano we got here. and he goes, I like this one note. And I matched the whole piano to that one note and voiced it. And he loved the piano. And was giving me a lot of credit for it because he's really, really picky. But with David, that was the same thing that happened. We rented, it was our Steinway B, I think it was, and we rented it for a private party in Manalapan.
It was his first time out after being redone, right?
Yeah. And so it's same thing because it's that same song. You know, he's repeating it real fast, and it wasn't fast enough for him. And I just finished tuning, and he came up to do a sound check. And I says, "Is that fast enough for you?" He goes, "No." And I said, "I'll make it faster for you." He goes, "You can do that?" I said, "Yes, I can. Give me a few minutes." Took it apart, made a few adjustments, kind of a little bit outside the box stuff, and outside of regulation, and did a little few tweaks. And I said, "Now try it." He goes, "Oh my God, how'd you do that?" And I'm like,
That's what I do.
That's what I do. That's what I do, because that was the most important key. It's middle C for them to repeat. And it's a fast, that song, if you really listen to it, they play that C very, very fast.
I'm trying to picture the song in my head now, and I can't think of which one it is, but I think I can hear it as you're describing it.
And it's and they just pound on it, pound on it, and they're almost they're hitting the key so fast that I could swear they're almost burying the key to make it repeat again. You know what I mean? Because it's so fast, and it's between three notes, and it's scary sometimes. There's times I have to stay for a concert, and I'm backstage, and I'm hearing the artist, and I'm like, man, please don't let a key slip, because that could fumble an artist. If you think about it, if they're going so fast and they're doing trills and they're and then the key, it could throw them off. At least I know it would for me if I was doing the show. But then again, they're also professionals, and I'm not a concert pianist.
Right.
But that's just one of the behind the scenes stuff that the people sitting in the seats don't get to know about. That's why we do podcasts like this, is because we want to introduce what people do not get to see. That's the cool thing about it. It's there was one time we were talking about it too. I was down at the American Airlines Arena, and if I remember correctly, I think we were picking up a piano for Yanni after his concert. And so we're waiting for the concert to get done, and there's this, the head guy. You could tell he was the head guy because he said, "All right, everybody gather around." And 25, 30 people gather around. He started saying, "Okay, you're going to do this, and you're going to do this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this, and this." As soon as the clapping stops, you get out there and you start breaking everything down. Because I think they had a basketball game the very next day, So like when an arena forms, there's even more things going on. They do it at Pro Player Stadium, or is it still called Pro Player Stadium for the Dolphins play? Or
No, it's Hard Rock.
Hard Rock, right. Yep. So, and they do a concert one night, and the next day is a football game, and then same thing in arena. So it's so many moving parts that it's like, how do you do this? The Panther Stadium, they got the ice.
Yeah. I used to go to a lot of hockey games, Capitals games back in D.C., and we'd get there real early sometimes, and they'd still be picking up the basketball floor from a Georgetown game. And so it was wild. I would sit there and just went, this is as good as watching the game, watching those guys work. It's really fun.
Yeah, and all the semis of the trucks of stuff that got to come in, and put together, and some of the stages, U2, when they did the 360 tour, that stage was insane. It was in the middle of Hard Rock Stadium, and I got a story about that if you guys want to hear it. So I work for Live Nation. I do, the concerts for them, and I'm working for U2, and it was down there. So I go through the tunnel, like where the Dolphins run out, and I'm like, oh, this is cool. I can see how it's like, blah, 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 this is cool, and 80,000 seats, blah, 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 blah. And in my head, I'm going, Toby, you're in your head. But so I walk.
Should have had a Dolphins helmet with you.
Yeah, right. I should have ran too. Where's the piano? So they take me to the piano, and it's a Yamaha. I think it was a CP80, which is strings, but it's digital too, electric. So I tuned the piano, and I had tuned it for them a few years before on another concert. So, because the first time I went to tune for them was at BB&T Center, and I look at this thing and I'm like, I've never tuned one of these before, but it's got strings, it's got hammers, and I have a tuning hammer. I can get it done. Did it, everything was fine. So I'm not worried this time. I go there, and now the stage is here, and the piano's down here, and then during the concert, it raises up to the stage, and it's 360, so the moving parts of the stage when they're walking all around, pretty cool, right? So I'm like, all right, cool. I took some pictures, and as I'm leaving, I'm walking back through the tunnel, and there's paramedics walking towards me. And one of the paramedics, I think, may have been a rookie or something, because I overheard him in passing saying, why does there have to be so many of us here tonight? And the other guy he was talking to, the other paramedic, said, because there's going to be over 80,000 people here tonight. Because it wasn't just in the stands. It was on the standing, too, on the football field. Yep. And I'm like, 80,000 people are going to hear my tuning. I was like, that's pretty cool. I'm the only one that's going to, know about it until now. But,
it's a feather in your cap.
Yeah, it was just a fun little thing, But yeah, the behind the scenes stuff is so interesting because there's a lot of things that go wrong too. I had to tune for a concert, and a string broke on me, and I didn't have time to replace it because there just wasn't enough time. So I had to splice the string on this 9-foot Steinway, and I've only spliced maybe 3 strings in my whole career. Now I have practiced a lot more than putting them in, which is a lot easier because you have all this room to work with and blah, 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 blah. But I had to do it, because if you splice the string, it's already stretched. It'll stay in tune better. If you put a new string in, it's going to go, it's right in the beginning. So you got it. There's not enough time to stabilize it. So I did it, and everything ended up fine. But, I've had an A-graph break on me right before a concert, and I'm like, oh.
That happened not too long ago. That was this season, right?
I had it this year, and then I had it, that happened this year. Yep. Yeah. And then I had it a few years ago. And so, and that's a big, big problem. So the first time that happened, the show was, I don't know, 3-4 hours from the time I was there, a sound check, something like that. And so I didn't have my tools with me that I need for an A-graph, because typically they don't break, but there is a manufacturer, I won't name who, that are very common that does break. So I had called my guy, said, I need you to bring me my tools. Did the tuning. By the time he got there, I did have some tools, so I'd already started working on it, but I didn't have a drill. That was the only thing I was missing. So then I can't get the broken A-graph out. So I'm like, now I got to drill this out. None of my tricks worked. And I'm drilling. Now there's this bar that's right here, and my drill hit the bar and went, and so now I made the hole bigger. I elongated it, and I'm like, oh! So I'm sitting here like, okay, so I guess you're going to put like a filler in. I forgot what
a shim,
kind of like a shim, but it's a I can't think of the word, but kind of like a plug, right?
Like
so so it's all metal, but I'm like, well, I've never done this before either, so I'm going to learn today. So now I had to use a bigger drill bit, make it bigger, thread it, put the God, it's driving me nuts, the name of it, the spacer in, whatever you call it. And then put the A-graph in. Well, it all worked, and it's still holding to this day because I still tune that piano. But it's one of those things. It's like, when something happens, you either grin and bear it and get to work, or that's your reputation right there. Yeah. I had a hammer break on me one time right before a concert. It was my fault, which I don't ever break hammers, but this one time I was voicing a hammer, and I just kind of poked the needle, and the hammer went. I'm like, ah! So I was sitting here like, let me go grab a shank. I had everything, so I wasn't worried about that. The problem was the boring for the hammer and my shank. The boring was bigger than my shank. I'm like, so the hammer, when you put it on, the hammer was like, flopping around. I'm like, oh man, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And so I took traveling paper. Now, any technicians watching this are probably going to think this is a stupid idea, but it worked, and it held for a very long time. I took traveling paper, and I wrapped it around the shank just enough that it made the bore fit the shank and it tight, and that thing held the rest of the season. And it was thinking outside the box,
You have no choice sometimes. Yep.
but there wasn't a person that went to that concert that knew what happened,
That's all that
before that
matters.
concert happened. I was just praying that hammer didn't break during that concert.
Yeah, I bet. I would imagine you guys encounter plenty of that because you have so many things that can go wrong.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, what anything stick out to you like stuff that couldn't get fixed before the show, and you just had to rig it and like?
Okay, so I think it was probably my first or second year at the theater. We do obviously we do a lot of dance, and there was one company, Dayton Contemporary Dance of Dayton, Ohio. Contemporary Dance of Dayton, Ohio. They came in. We took us a couple days to set up the lights. We focused the lights when they got there. We that was on a Thursday. Friday morning we come in. We tech the entire show. We tweak it. They rewrote the cues. We were all happy. We go to dinner around 5:00. All happy. Everyone's happy. Come back after 45 minutes to an hour later, and lighting wise, we do our dimmer check, where you go through every single light just to make sure that everything's got a good lamp, everything's going. And again, all of a sudden, I'm just hitting the buttons, and all of a sudden I'm noticing lights aren't going on. What's going on? I'm looking at the board, looking at the screen, everything's there, it's on. Nothing out on the stage is going on. What's going on? And then you got to really start thinking, because I've got 90 minutes before we open a house. And the dimmers are not talking to the lighting console. So we have basically, with lighting, there's really only like 3 things in stage lighting that you have to check: the lamp, the circuit that you plugged into, and the plug itself, making sure it's actually seated correctly. Because stuff just gets unplugged. It happens. This wasn't a lamp issue. This wasn't a circuit issue. This was a dimmer bank that just died. It happened. It also was on our 15th anniversary. It was the Duncan's 15th anniversary season, and this was a company that had been there before. And I'm like, nobody's back yet from break yet, and I'm just in the booth by myself, starting to have an anxiety attack because I'm responsible for the lighting. That at the time, that was as the assistant LD. That's what I did.
Your main gig.
And I'm freaking out. So I first go check the dimmer rack, and we had issues with this dimmer rack from the time I started working there. It was probably about 18 months at that point. And we had to have it, certain parts of it sent out to get fixed, because we went from an analog lighting system to a digital lighting system. So we had to have like certain components changed so the lighting console would talk to the dimmers. But these dimmers were 15 years old, and when they bought them, that was like the last year that they built those specific dimmers. So by time 15 years later, they don't have parts anymore. They actually sent me a letter after we sent up we call it this CEM, the central mod, which it's basically the brains of the dimmer rack. Sent it out to get service, and they sent it back and said, "This is the last time we're going to fix it for you. We will not guarantee any of the work that we just did, or don't expect us to do in the future."
Time to throw some money down.
Makes you feel all warm and fuzzy.
Yeah, and so it was like, okay, what do we do? What do we do? So I tried all of the things that I had learned in the previous 3 years professionally and the 5 years of schooling. I was like, okay, I got no power. And it wasn't that I didn't have power. The lights we could turn on, but we didn't have control of the individual dimmers. They just kind of stuck. Some of the cues that we wrote, lights came on, some didn't. So we ended up having to actually go pre-show when we knew that we couldn't have actual working lights, because there was no way we'd get a new dimmer pack or anything that redone in that amount of time. We had to make an announcement to the audience and basically say, ladies and gentlemen, there is a technical problem with the lighting system at the theater, unfortunately, but we will continue to do our show under the given lights that we have. Sorry for the inconvenience. Please enjoy. So we were able to get enough lighting to where we just had lights up, lights down kind of thing. That was the best I could do. Lights up, lights down. It's like a switch on the wall when you walk in the door. And in the end, it's kind of amazing. It kind of shows you at least it showed me what a community who was really into the art factor, there's a lot of give and take. And the fact that we said, hey, we can't give you everything that we wanted to give you and promise, but we're going to still give you a show. And those dancers still went out and they still did their thing. We gave them the best lighting we could for the circumstance. in the end, we had a talk back, as we do after every dance show and continue to do with every show. People didn't really pay even attention to the fact that our lighting wasn't working. People still enjoyed and got their cathartic moment of release, watching some movement on stage with some good sound, and they, at the end of the day, were happy. So we weren't happy, and the entire show, why this is happening, Norm, he's on the phone with a local production company trying to get a couple dimmer racks, portable dimmer racks. And this was crazy because this was a year where the Super Bowl was in Miami.
Oh, yeah.
And it happened to have been the week before. So no production company from Jacksonville to Key West had any equipment to rent out because it was all at the stadium. And Norm was able to find 2 48 dimmer racks, portable, and a whole bunch of Socko cable, and he had it delivered while the show is happening. He's making all these phone calls, and I'm running the show. He's taking care of trying to get power for us. We ended up pulling an all-nighter. We unplugged all of our stuff. We reran cable with this portable dimmer rack, and we probably did it in about 6 hours. So we probably got, most of us slept at the theater. We got maybe 3 or 4 hours sleep. By the time we came in or I should say the company came in the next morning for their rehearsal, lights were back up. They had control. We did the day. We did rehearsals. Everything worked. We get to pre-show, do a dimmer check. Everything works. And all of a sudden, something just blinked out. And we're like, oh, no. What do you mean? What's going on? So Norm goes outside, and he starts checking all the connectors on the portable dimmer racks that we had ordered. And one of our stagehands apparently tripped. It's that classic. Someone trips over, the cord and gets kicked out of the. That's actually what happened. And meanwhile, I didn't know this. I'm up in the booth having a anxiety attack. I'm about to have a heart attack. And Norm's scurrying around backstage, and he finds that it's just unplugged. So he plugs it back in. I mean, it's that simple.
Yeah.
Plug it back in. Plug the dimmer rack. Within 30 seconds of him plugging it back in, power was back up in the dimmer racks. I had control at the board. But that's stress.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
And back to what we were talking about earlier. The audience doesn't see that. They don't know that stuff like that happens and it happens on a regular basis. There's reasons why when the Rolling Stones go out on tour, they travel with 3 sets, continuously hopping the next, because it takes 3 days to set up their set. U2, I remember when you actually went to that U2 concert, because you took pictures underneath, and I remember you came and you showed us the underneath of where the piano was on the elevator.
It was crazy.
And it looked like you were walking in the Millennium Falcon.
That's the first thing I was thinking of, too.
And the people outside who are watching the concert, they're there for the music and they're there for the lights, but they don't really see that other stuff. And it's fun when people do, like when our donors came in that one day, they got a treat. They're like, we've never seen this before. And we don't understand how you or why you continue to do this. And after 27 years, I still ask myself, why do I continue to do this? In the end, it's about putting something on the stage so people can come and forget about life for a few hours. And if I can help give them a few hours of not thinking about the crazy, stupid of life around us, then I did my job.
So you stress out so they don't have stress.
Yeah. That's
For 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, too. They don't realize how stressful this part of the business can be, too. I mean, there's once again, so many moving parts and so many moving people that you have to work together as a team, because if not, one person messes up, it's a trickle effect. It can be. If I mess up, I only have myself to blame, so, which I have messed up before, and I can't get mad at anybody but myself. I'd rather get mad at myself than anybody else. But when you, from start to finish, I think that's like a TV show of the behind the scenes stuff, behind the curtain. That could be the name of the show,
That'd be a great name for a show.
Yeah. Yeah. And just Discovery Channel, if you're watching, that was my idea. It is May 7th, right? 2025, 5 till 6 o'clock.
I guess with
My witnesses are Josh, Mike, and Mike.
I guess with podcasts, you don't have to mail a letter to yourself anymore.
This is my proof. any judge is going to agree with me.
You got timestamps on the camera, so don't worry.
Okay, that's two, and that's written, so there we go. Yeah, I think that's a kind of a cool. What you guys do would be a really good TV show. You know, it's like what we do here too. So we did our first. Well, it's not our first. I did one like I think 10 years ago, but we did an unveiling today. You know, and I think that's why this behind the curtain thing is in the front of my mind, is because we actually closed these curtains over here and we made this custom built Yamaha piano. We designed it. I can show it to you afterwards if you like. And the customer came in and she did see the outside of it, I don't know, 6-8 weeks ago. And I told her, listen, you really should do this and this and this to it. Make the plate purple, because it's purple and black. Make the plate purple, copper wound strings, nickel plated the A-grass, blah, 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 blah. Because everything else was still gold inside and it just didn't flow. And she did it. So we unveiled it today. So we had the curtains closed. It was kind of funny because she comes walking in and our air conditioner turned on and the curtains all blowing like this. And I'm like, no, close the curtain. Don't you look.
Look down while you're walking. Look down.
No, I won't. But she allowed us to film it. So we're going to put it on Facebook. She was waiting for her husband. He came in and they were just blown away. They were just, the reaction was fantastic because it's kind of like a TV show too, in the sense where, you know, Orange County Choppers, you know, the way that they would do it with the bikes and they do it with home improvement shows and all this stuff, you know. We're kind of doing that here now, you know, with this unveiling. And I've already talked to future customers. Some didn't want to do it with some of the work we've been doing, but I talked to future ones. I said, listen, in 4 months when we're done with your piano, you mind if we film, you know, an unveiling? And they're like, oh, I would love that. So that's the wow factor of they know what their piano looked like before. Then you get to see what it looks like afterwards. Then you get to hear it and play it. And, you know, so we're going to keep doing that. I think that's a good way to get people excited about it, because she wanted to see it last week. But her husband wanted to see it, so she had to wait a week to see it with him, and it was driving her nuts. You know, she was just like, I'm so excited to see it. But it was cool because, like you do, pleasing the audience with making sure the show goes on and goes on right. We kind of do that here with the rebuilds and when we sell a piano and so on and so forth, because we put so much time and dedication into our pianos and into our work that we want to make sure you know, that the customer is extremely happy, and we got it on film, and that's why we have a lot of 5-star reviews, because we're very fortunate, because we have a lot of good customers and they love what we do. Not that we haven't had problems, we all do. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and lie and say, oh, we haven't had an issue with this and this, but we learned from it, and this will never happen again. And if it does happen again, then the hatchet comes down. You know, it's like, no, hold on. But when you're dealing with an acoustic instrument is one thing. You're dealing with sound and lighting. That's like a wild animal, you know? I mean, am I right? Because there's so many things that could go wrong. That.
It's crazy. Just because when you think about like certain things like microphones, the amount of wireless microphones, and it's not just the microphones that are wireless. The instruments have packs so guitarists can walk around. Wireless. You have so many frequencies bouncing around, and when you think about it, if you're in an 80,000 seat stadium, everybody out there's got their cell phone on. Everybody's taking pictures. Everybody's sending people stuff. That actually interferes with our technology and what we're trying in terms of the show and what we're trying. There's been times where I've had at the theater, people were using their phone during a show, and it just happened to have been a day. It was a chamber show. So our chamber shows are usually in the afternoon. And that's the busiest time. It's a Wednesday afternoon on a college campus. That's the busiest time. And there was so much activity with the school's wireless internet that nothing worked.
Oh, wow.
So you want to talk about going to an acoustic show? We literally did go to an acoustic show.
Wow.
And that's another
and
one
how
of
does
the
that
things
play
where,
out in that theater?
you know, it's funny when it's another great thing about watching an audience, and it's probably one of the reasons why I'm fascinated by what I do. Even though stuff went bad, stuff went down, it was obvious that things were not working properly. The audience saw us do what we did, we still gave them a show in both instances, whether it was the dance show or this chamber show. They still had a great time at the end of it, and they saw us work. And like when we had to go out and literally move the piano because we had an issue with the small stick, and somebody knocked it. I don't think I ever told you this.
No.
Prop stick.
The prop stick?
Yeah, the small one.
On the
It was the Kwai.
the Kwai, yeah, because the D doesn't have that.
No, it was the Kwai. And long short of it broke. And we're in the middle of the show, and it's like, well, got a microphone in there, and it's got it. So I ran back into the shop, and I just grabbed a piece of wood. I came back out, stuck it in there, and as I'm walking
You
off,
stick a coffee can in there to be fine.
Stage West, which is our small space at the Duncan. It's a room. It's 120 seats, and it's 30 feet, if that, from the stage, back of the stage to where I was to where the booth is. And I just kind of nodded, like, all right, let's go. And once it started, as I'm walking off, after all I did was put a stick in the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just put a stick in there just to prop it up. I get a standing ovation. I won't say complete, standing ovation, but there were people who were like clapping, and they were like, it was like, wow, all I did was put a freaking stick in there. But they appreciated the fact that I was there. They appreciated the fact that I attacked whatever was going wrong. I fixed it. I still, on the other end, for what it's worth, they got great music.
And they probably appreciate it because think about it. Most people that go to shows have stage fright. They could not get in front of 100 people, 300 people, 600 people.
Do anything
and do
successfully.
anything. Right. So they're looking at you like, oh, wow, look, I couldn't do that.
Yeah.
I all these people watching me, and then what's the trick? You're supposed to look at them and think they're all naked or something, so you can calm your nerves. But because you've been around so long here, like Holland, we talked about Holland Ryan. Now he's at Sunrise Theatre in Fort Pierce, and he was at Old School Square. That was a great hall. Unfortunately, it's not there anymore. But there's a lot of people that around Palm Beach County because you've worked at, like, I know you would go to Belle Glade, Palm Beach State, out there and do stuff. You have an EC campus. You worked with Holland, up in, they have some good shows there at the Sunrise Theatre too. And so that's the cool thing of having a foundation with being in a place for so long is all the networking and all the connections and friends you make, through the years of the people that stick with it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
You, me, we could have a year or two in, I'm done. But we're all here because we stuck with it.
Mm-hmm. We're grinders.
We're grinders.
That's kind of what I was referring to earlier. It's like we just put our head down and grind through it, and this is what we do.
Exactly. Get it done. TCB. Just take care of business.
And you learn a lot of those tricks.
Oh, yeah.
Make stuff happen on the fly.
Yep.
I don't know if I've ever said this before, but like you said, you got a standing ovation. I believe this was at the Kravis Center. Maybe not. I don't remember. But my dad, there was a concert. I believe it was Andre Watts, possibly. And so the artist, if it wasn't him, went on stage, hit a chord, and walked off stage. And my dad's backstage, and he goes, the pedal's not working. So my dad walked out in front of stage of, I think it was Kravis, because I remember him saying there was 2,000 seats. It's about 2,600, something like that. So he walked out on stage, knew exactly what the problem was, went underneath the piano, fixed the pedal. And he had his tool case, as soon as he was done, he started walking off, everyone started clapping. And then he played the concert,
Because they know if it wasn't for him, the pianist wouldn't have the instrument.
Right.
And it just again shows how much is, again, more behind the scenes that people don't realize. And then when they do have a chance to see a glimpse of it, they get excited about it.
Yeah.
And it gets them even more entertained. And literally, they're entertained by seeing what we do. Like, if it happens where I've had times where the curtain gets caught, at the main curtain, and they'll see what we're doing scurrying back there. And we don't really want them to see everything. That's part of the magic. Is you have the big reveal, as you were talking about earlier. But we brought the curtain in. It got caught on a lighting boom, so there was a triangle of space where certain people in the audience during the pre-show could see. And when we're scurrying backstage because it was like 2 minutes before we're sending the boss out to make his pre-show announcements, I realized that somebody's looking at me. I'm over on stage left, and I'm like, I should not be looking at this person, and they certainly should not be looking at me. And then it has to get on the headset. Ariel, can you do me a favor? Bounce the curtain in and out, quick. And so, okay, bounces it in and out. Just bring it out, bring it back in, and it came in flat, and it hit it. And as soon as it hit the deck, people start clapping. You can hear it on the other side of the curtain. So people see, and they look, and they people are always
that was literally behind the curtain.
Yeah, literally.
And they're appreciative of what you're doing to make sure that the show's going on, because I'm sure during intermission there's a lot of stuff you guys are moving around and having to shift around, and this, roll the piano here, or these stands, and this has to go over here to chairs, and blah, 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 and then the stage lights come back on, the curtains up, and the stage looks different. Not from, I don't know, sometimes probably drastically, sometimes probably not, but there's a lot of stuff that you guys are moving behind that curtain, or you notice that something had to be done, and you're doing it because you have 15 minutes during intermission, so there's that part of it too, that they don't get to see.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know. It just really interests me. It's like that. What's the song? The Load-In song?
Load Out.
The Load Out.
Jackson Brown.
Yeah. Great song.
Oh, it's so good.
Great song. And that's you. That's you guys.
That is exactly.
Yeah.
The without you guys, the show, there would be no show. From the time that whether because some guys travel with the bands, if it's a concert, like a rock concert or whatever. But when you have the different plays and different orchestras and different operas and the symphonies and all these different things, there's so much happening that it's like, whew, And I know you've told me numerous times, I put in 80 hours this week. I'm a little fried. I'm like, yeah, I would be too.
Yeah.
But grinders, like you said, you just grind, just do it, get it done, and then you move on to the next show. Good thing is that you do have a break during summer.
I do.
So that's the positive side to that. But so your season is pretty much from when to when?
Well, our presenting season is pretty much from January until June, with the exception of our spring break when the college is closed, the theater's closed, which is really nice, extra week off. That's awesome. Not just your 2 weeks paid vacation, but get that extra spring break. That's kind of fun. So that's the time period for what we present.
Paid vacation is what you said?
Pretty much, yeah,
wow.
it is actually.
Don't get any ideas.
Why is everybody looking at me?
2 weeks?
Are you hiring?
Once June comes around and the season's over,
I'm not a box pusher.
There's roughly about 3 or 4 weeks where we have to close all of the service contracts, pay the vendors like yourself.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was doing today. I was making sure you're getting paid and closing
I
your
knew I
account.
had you on the podcast for a reason.
Yes. That was the reminder. It's like, I can't go there without taking care of making sure I pay him.
Where's Toby's?
Where's that email?
Send the mail. Don't worry about it.
Did they send me the invoice? Oh, cool. All right. Did I send it to Madeline in fiscal? Oh, no, I didn't. Oh, yes, I did. Okay, cool. I'm all good. So when we get to summertime, we have about a 3 to 4 week break in terms of not doing shows, but where we're kind of doing two things. We're closing out all the fiscal year financials, and we're also starting to take the theater apart, light for light, speaker for speaker. Everything comes apart, everything gets checked, everything gets clean, gets split back, we refocus, we re-sound, re-smart the house. And then by the second week of July, we start having events again. From July until, say, December, we're doing a lot more academic stuff because, again, we are on a college campus, so we do support college activities. We also are a roadhouse, so we rent out our facility to other community theater groups, dance groups, recital, dance recital kind of shows. So even when we're not doing our presentations over the course of our season, we're still busy doing shows and events. I do, between both spaces, I do almost, somewhere around 360 events between two theaters. And I still oversee and assist with the theater Dollyhan out in Belglade. So it's like, we don't really have a lot of downtime, but when you do have your downtime, you take it, you enjoy it. Working at the college theater is a little different. It's not normal to have 5 weeks paid vacation at a theater. In fact, it's pretty unheard of. One of the benefits of working at a college, again, when the college is closed, they don't want to turn the air on for the theater. So, so I'm like, no, it's cheaper for us just to, have you stay home. And, than for us
That's
to
a pretty wild thought.
Give you 40 hours.
So, working at the college has, been great. But we never stop. Even when I'm not at my theater, I get a phone call from Holland up at Sunrise. Hey, man, I need a couple people. I'm really desperate. Can you come give me a hand? Yep. And I don't even hesitate because he does the same for me. If I call him, hey, man, soundboard just took a crap. I don't know what to do. Did you do this? Yes. Did you do that? Yes. He said, all right, give me 45 minutes. And within an hour and a half, he'll be at my place. A little later than the 45 minutes he says, but then he's there for me. So, the thing about, as you were saying earlier, it kind of just brings it back around, actually, is we do have a lot of connections and we have resources around us, over time. And that's as kind of a remarkable thing because, a lot of people don't want to help anymore.
All right.
People, again, just as I was saying earlier, the mentality of how we pay people from, an hourly wage to now they want a day rate, which is not very practical in. It'd be nice if I can get a certain wage every day, but that's not reality. But they would rather not work at all. So we have to adjust how we function backstage. And a lot of that is relying on other theaters and other people for resources. There's times where he'll call me up, hey, man, 2 of my movers just took a crap. Can I get some of yours? Sure, I got nothing going on. Come with your truck. So we load up his truck with my movers. We bring up, set him up at Sunrise, and then he's got lights for his concert that night. So, I get phone calls from, even the regional theaters, the Wick Theater down in Boca. Hey, I got a show. I have no gel. I have no lamps. Can you help me out? Sure. Because they do the same thing in response if I need something. So having community is awesome. It allows us to do what we do. And again, it brings us as a community closer, knowing that we have those resources at our hands, if need be. Because, again, a lot of people don't want to help anymore.
Right. When you cooperate, you just get so much further.
Absolutely.
It's you're stronger together than apart, and everybody at one point in their life, is whether it's in the theater or life in general, is gonna need a helping hand. And when you have a team like that, where that you can call on them and they can call on you, it's like us with other technicians. We're here. You guys need us. That's what we're here for. And it happens quite a bit. We have a lot of texts. Hey, can you fix this for me? Can you do this and this and this? We do. And sometimes they're frantic because I gotta get something done right away. Hey, can you knock this out for me? Yeah, we can. We got the crew. We got the team to do it. So, but I have a question for you. I don't know if you know the answer to it, but why do they keep a lamp on the stage when everything is shut down, but there's one light? Oh, okay.
Down in the front corner.
I used to Hollywood Square. I used to know this answer, but I forgot because my dad told me many years ago, but I forgot why.
So it's called a ghost light.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
And from what has been explained to me, so people don't walk off the stage.
There's 2 reasons.
That was one of them.
The practical explanation is that perfectly explained it. When you turn all the lights out in a theater, it's pretty black. I mean, it's dark.
Oh yeah.
Except for the exit lights by the doors, it's pretty dark. And back in the day, before people put exit signs over doors, it was even darker. So
Black.
so
What?
people don't walk off the stage in the dark. That's really the practical reason. But there's another reason. When people are in a performance, whether they're musicians, whether they're actors, dancers, when you're on a stage, even when you're backstage as a technician, you are putting on a performance for someone. Even though the audience doesn't necessarily see you backstage putting on a performance to make that show happen, it's still happening. So you have the efforts, the energy, the artistic idea of collaboration, all of these things that make up a production, right? You have your technicians, you have your dancers, you have your singers, you have your musicians, you have your magicians, you have your clowns, anybody who puts any kind of effort on the stage, they leave a little bit of themselves. So out of respect for those who have been on the stage, because all performers, they want to be in the light. So out of respect for those who have been there before, you leave the light on.
Oh, that's cool.
So they call it a ghost light for that reason, because the ghost of those who were here prior still remains. The energy from what they gave us and our audience still remains in that space. And it's kind of crazy because when you go into, I've worked in some theaters, old theaters, and you go in the middle of the night when nobody's there. For whatever reason, you're in the middle of the theater in the middle of the night. You hear things. You feel things. You know, you can feel an energy when you walk into a building, whether it's a theater, whether it's a piano store, whether it's a library, whether it's a hospital. All these places have a certain feeling. I'm not a church religious person, but when I go to a theater or when I go to a museum, I get the feeling as what has been expressed to me by people who go to church. You know, that idea of peace, sereneness, or calmness, or a moment of clarity, or whatever, even if it's just a break from what's going on. Sure. So, you know, people want to be remembered. And the energy that they put into their performance, they hope that you as an audience is taking something from that and taking it home and giving you some thought. And that's why the ghost light's there.
Okay.
So first and foremost, practical reasons, so you don't fall off the stage in the middle of the night.
It's so the ghosts
It happens.
can find their way.
Or because if it wasn't there and you did fall off the stage, then you'd have your presence
It
there
didn't
too.
happen.
That's true too. We don't want to add to it. But along those lines, though, there's certain theaters I've been in, and I don't get the amount of solo time in an empty theater like you do, but I always appreciate it. It does happen from time to time after we've set up the piano and I'm the last one there, or something like that. And, you know, and there's certain places, Lake Worth Playhouse being one of them, is famous for the story of the guys who started the theater. One of them hung himself from the rafters. I can't remember the exact story. But there's a lot of theaters have very big ghost stories associated with them.
Oh, yeah.
I would think Poinciana Playhouse that they're rebuilding now, that's going to open up this year. That I don't know why, but I remember going there as a kid, seeing shows with my mom and my dad and grandmother and uncle. I saw Victor Borga there. I saw the guy from Chips. He was in a play there. The captain was it Hot Lips from MASH. She did a play. John Stamos did a play. You know, I just remember, and I was backstage at that theater, and then I started tuning there. You know, when I was older. And there was just something about that theater. I don't know what it was. I loved the lobby. It was so dated, but it was so cool. It was like, and I was a kid, you know, and then when I started tuning there and I'm backstage and I'm seeing, you know, how to get up to the risers, or not risers, but what do you call it? You know, to get to the lights, isn't there the
catwalk.
Catwalk, right. You know, and it was all wood and stuff. And I'm like, because it was an old theater. And now they're rebuilding it. But I don't know, that theater was very nostalgic to me, you know, so hopefully that kind of stays, but they tore every wall down except for one.
They did.
But you know why they do that? Because of permitting. If you leave one wall up, you don't, there's different permitting codes. Yep. So, because one of my neighbors did that too, where they had the whole house was gone except for one wall.
That's across the street from your mom's house.
That too. Yeah, them too. Yep. So,
That's crazy.
because I think it's not building a whole new house because one wall was left standing. But it's
A lot of BS involved.
yeah, of course.
That's ridiculous.
The other thing too, before we go, is the saying "break a leg."
Okay.
Do you know what that means?
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know, I read it one time. I just can't remember what it was.
Okay, so when you're in the audience and you're looking at the stage, one of the things that we use is called masking. The curtains, the black curtains. You have black curtains on the side of the stage. You have black curtains that go across the top that mask the lights. So the curtains that go across the stage, those are called borders. The curtains on each side of the stage are called legs. So back in vaudeville times, there was the saying, you know, so you're not seen by the audience. Don't break the leg, meaning don't go beyond the leg so you're seen. So that's where break the leg comes from.
Okay. Yep. Now I remember, because I always wondered. I look stuff up when I hear something like, that's just a funny saying. I mean, why would you want to break a leg?
Yeah.
Or I mean, the leg of a chair. You don't want to break your own leg.
Don't break a leg.
You know, I mean, and then I looked it up. But yes, now I remember.
Oh, that's pretty cool. What, anything stick out? Favorite show from this year?
This past year?
Yeah. Pink Floyd?
It definitely was the Machine Pink Floyd experience. It was absolutely an amazing sounding show. And it, for a little 700-seat house, it really wasn't that loud. I mean, it did not, it might have peaked at about 103 dB, but that's not sustained. That's not the entire length of the concert, which is kind of one of the things that, our house manager and I'll get a phone call or on the headset, hey, got to come up front. And they're showing me their watch, decibel meter. And it's like, yeah, that's just a peak. That's not the whole time. You're fine.
Right.
Yes, it's rock and roll. It's going to be loud.
Right.
And it's Pink Floyd. It was awesome.
So where could people go online to if they want to see what shows are coming up and
So Palm Beach State College main page, and then there's a link for all three theaters. We have the Dollyhan Theater in Belglade, Florida, which is about an hour west of here. We have EC Campus Theater in Palm Beach Gardens. They're 720-seat theater. They're only 20 seats larger than us. But they have a beautiful theater. They do a lot of stuff. They're a Roadhouse as well. They present 5 shows, maybe 8 shows a year, and do a lot more rentals and community things. Where we do a lot more presenting, we do some rentals and a lot of academic stuff. So all of our theaters do a little bit differently. But through the website, we have a link to each theater, and each theater has an additional link with their lineup of the upcoming shows that we present.
okay? And if someone wants to volunteer, because isn't there
Absolutely,
volunteering?
always looking for volunteers. Ushers, front of house is a big way to volunteer and help. It also gives you an opportunity to see a show for free.
Well, and you guys just remodeled.
Does the Sunrise Theater need help?
Yes, they do actually.
Oh, really?
They're
I'm only 4 miles away from them. That's why I was.
Yeah, they're
I
always
can do
looking
an
for help.
usher like on a Saturday night.
They have when I did a show up there, I did beach. It was the Beach Boys last season helping Holland. He was like, again, situation. He's like, dude, I got nobody, and they need like 35 people on this call. I'm like, how many do you have? He's like, 8. If you come 9, like, sure. So I went up and did the Beach Boys, and ended up staying up there for 3 days and working for him for 3 days straight. And it happened to be on my spring break, so it's like making some extra money, seeing some good.
I heard it's
tunes.
a cool theater, though.
It's a crazy cool theater.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I haven't been in there, but I've heard it's just.
It's got it's an old space. It has you walk in there and the lobby has been redone, so it's kind of nice and welcoming. But you go into the actual theater auditorium, and the colors, the decorations, the height, the depth of this space, it's got such a feel of being very large because they can fit about 1,000 people in there.
Oh wow!
But it's also very intimate because you're so close to the stage. It's a great space. And we actually Mike Delagueza, the guy who also plays with Billy Joel, and he was doing a concert the other night before the Beach Boys, and just so happened to their lighting console had to be a certain kind of console, Beach Boys. So Holland had to rent a special one. He's like, I don't know how to program this. Can you? That was the other reason. He's a sound guy. I'm a lighting guy. Again, we help one another, and I can do sound, he can do lights, but that's not our thing. So we help each other with our expertise. And so I come up there, and for the Billy Joel tribute show, we kind of recorded the cues, kind of wrote things on the fly, and then the next morning loaded in Beach Boys, and they came in, dropped their flash drive, and like, here you go. Like, well, if you had it on a flash drive, why did I have to come up and program it? But
well, there's so many times too, the artist is things change so many times. They want this, and then, no, it's this, not this, and I mean it's back and forth, and that happens too, and it drives you nuts. I remember one time, I don't remember who the artist was, but it was for Live Nation. I was tuning for, I don't remember who the artist was, but the opening act wanted the dressing room this type of flowers, this type of this and this and this color couch and blah, 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 blah. And then she cancels. So they have no one to open the show. they ended up getting another famous artist, which I can't remember who it was, but that artist was a diva. You know, I mean, if they get, she has to have it this way and this way and this way. Come on, you're first of all, you're an opening act, you know, and two, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying, but two,
You're just doing that because you can.
yeah, exactly, and then you cancel.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
but they're always doing, okay, we're going to rehearse from now to now. No, we're going to come in now and stay till now. And, you know, and then there's times I'll go to tune and I can't get on stage because their rehearsal is right up until the time they open the doors. So what am I supposed to do? I do what I can. Sometimes they keep the doors closed till just give me some time to do whatever I can do. Usually it's just touch up right before the show anyway. But, you know, there's a lot of changing that goes on too. From the artists, you know, and the perspectives of what happens behind the curtain, you know, can be a TV show. We'll start setting up cameras over at Duncan. And,
Put the GoPros all around.
We've got our own curtain right here. We can start here.
oh yeah, we'll
They've
start
got
here.
plenty of curtains.
Yeah.
Plenty of curtains.
Theirs are a lot nicer than ours.
They even got legs.
Yeah. And they don't have AC units blowing them like this.
Right.
Josh, man, it's been great, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's fun.
Thanks
Coming
for
on.
having me. This was fun.
Yeah. We can
We
do
should
it
do
again.
this at the end of every season at least.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Sure. Because we can talk about the shows that you know that came through, and people really need to, you know, if you want to see a good show in Lake Worth, you know, it's essentially located at Palm Beach State, you know, and then also EC and Belglade. You know, just look it up on Palm Beach State website and see some shows. I mean, there's good shows. I've been there numerous times. I've sat in the balcony. I've sat down. You know, I haven't had a bad seat that I've been there.
That's one more thing. I want. Where's the best seat in the house audio wise? Is there one?
Typically, if you were to ask a sound engineer, he would say smack in the middle of the auditorium.
In the balcony or
In the auditorium. Usually, for me, I like if I'm seeing a concert. If I go to a festival, if I'm at an outside concert, I'm always right next to the sound booth because that's where they're mixing from. That's what they hear. That's what they're controlling for the audience.
Yeah.
So, as an audience member, I'm going to be in my mind where he's mixing from.
that makes sense.
When you're in a small theater, because it's so expensive to kill seats for a sound console, because a sound console can be anywhere between, you know, a couple feet wide to 5 or 6 feet wide, upwards of 10 or 12 feet wide if you're talking the old analog consoles, which people still use. Willie Nelson still use an old analog console.
Of course he does.
It's a 72-channel analog console, which is hilarious because all of the processing is digital. So it's like, well, you can put all of that digital stuff into a 2-3 foot console, you realize. And no, they like what they like.
Yeah.
So,
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
and it goes back to it's what the artist likes. This is how they give us their art, and we present it to the audience.
And you know, it makes them feel comfortable because if you really think about it, the artist is just another human and they get nervous just like everybody else, you know, before a concert. I mean, it's just human nature, you know, okay, all right, I got to get up on stage, you know, so they prepare, they rehearse and this and this and this. But what if they're not feeling so great? What if, you know, they had some bad news?
Like
they
a pacifier.
they heard something bad news in the day, you know, they need to have their comfort with them so that it's not something that hasn't changed. And especially with Willie, you know, he's been using that thing for so long. It'd be like, where'd you go, my friend? You know? So, but that's just human nature, you know? And I don't think people know that either. I mean, artists are nervous sometimes. I'm not saying every single one, but I mean, you think about it. You get up on stage and do what they do.
I don't think Willie is.
Nah, I don't think he cares. He's been there, done that. But you know, they do. And people, you know, don't notice it because they're good at what they do and they're professional. But I mean, I've been nervous. I was nervous one time tuning at Duncan for David Crohan one time because I was just done with the piano. And he comes up and I said, "Oh, Mr. Crohan, would you like to try it?" And he tried it and he picked a few things out. And I said, "Oh, okay." You know, so I'm like touching it up and doing what I'm doing. But I was a little nervous because it's the first time I was working for him. And also I was a lot younger. You know, I don't get nervous anymore because I'm more of a professional because I've been there, done that. And you know, but new people, you know, getting in front of people would probably get, I mean, people get sick before
Oh,
they
yeah,
go
yeah,
out
yeah.
on stage,
Oh, yeah.
So it's just the way that it is. But man, thank you for being on.
Yeah.
Really
Thanks, Josh.
appreciate it. And well, let's do this again next year after the season and have a blast. Everybody, thank you for tuning in. Please share this, like us. You look what's up on Facebook, or come visit us in West Palm Beach and go see some good shows at Palm Beach State College. Everybody, thank you and have a good night.
Thanks, Sean.
Night.
See you.
Thanks.